What's that like? Oh, this is taking a turn for— oh my god! You silly— Let's begin! Summer Funland is a virtual theme park. As soon as you arrive, you really are taken back by how good the layout of everything is. And as you look around at everything, you get a quick glance at a roller coaster as it zooms high above you. It truly captures that feeling of excitement you get from a real world theme park. And just like a real one, you're overwhelmed with where to go and what to do first. After a bit of exploring though, it does become apparent that the park itself is not that large. It is a bit deceiving, especially with the buildings towering high above you. It's just a shame that there's not more to explore behind them. Graphically, things do look great up close and their textures really shine here, but things that are far away from you are quite blurry. It's still enjoyable to look at though, because the park's design has been given a lot of thought overall, and bright colours are everywhere. Now there is a few control methods and you can play seated, but doing so forces teleportation onto you. There is free movement, but only if you choose the standing option. As you all know, I'm lazy and prefer to play seated, but obviously prefer free movement. So I went against the instructions and played seated for the majority of the game with the standing free movement selected. And surprisingly, most of the games still do work okay, but there are some that don't, which I will let you know about when we reach them. There are so many different things that you can do in this park, and you can do them in any order you choose. Some are more traditional rides that you would normally see, and some are quite wacky. To enter an attraction, you simply stand in a circle at its entrance. First up is the roller coaster. This twists and turns all around the park, and it does have a loop. There's also sections where you enter underground caves, which are a bit thrilling due to how close your head is to the ceiling as you enter. It's quite decent, thanks to the scenery, but unfortunately, black edges are forced around your view, which obviously does hurt the amazing views. One of the more random and trippy rides here is an on-rails unicorn section in brightly coloured tunnels. In this you must stab shapes that quickly whiz past you. At first it seems easy, due to the size of your lance, but as you progress, the shapes pass you by with such speed that I'm not entirely sure if it is possible to hit every single one. Although it's visually a fun place to be, you can feel a slight sigh of relief when you return to the park, as your eyes really have just been through a lot. Next up is a game that feels quite out of place, but is a very welcomed addition, as long as you have steady hands and don't mind a bit of challenge. In this garden around a mansion, you must guide beams of light through mazes. If the beam touches anything other than the maze, you must start again. The difficulty comes from the routes that keep moving around and then becoming less wide in certain parts. It's quite difficult, and once again, you will need very steady hands to beat it. It can be quite lengthy too, depending on your skills, as there are a few puzzles here to be solved. Whack-a-mole makes an appearance, but this time it's Whack-a-Penguin. You get 2 hammers to use, and it does have fluid gameplay. If you miss a penguin or hit a bomb, you will lose a life. What you see is basically what you get with this one. There's not a whole lot to talk about. Another on-rails section part now, but without any control needed from the player at all. You are inside a submarine and are exploring deep under the ocean. It really does have some quite scenic moments, and you do get to see some underwater wildlife up close. It is incredibly reminiscent of the Shark Attack experience from PlayStation VR Worlds, and just like that experience, the peacefulness doesn't stay for too long. I won't ruin exactly what happens, but there are some quite intense moments to be had here. Just like the last, this ride is more of an experience title. It begins with you sitting in the theme park cinema, and at first, it seems like you will be watching a 3D film, but you're soon transported into the space location itself. It does have some nice visuals, especially the shadows that creep around the planets, but apart from the occasional planet nearly hitting you, there's not a whole lot here, and even during the ride, you'll likely think, is this it? The next ride is also found in the cinema, and just like the previous ride, no control is needed from the player. The ride is titled Gotham, and it is absolutely mimicking the city that is found in Batman. It begins with you on a bike that resembles the Bat bike. It's a fast-paced and exciting experience with some great visuals. It's just a shame that it doesn't last that long at all. You really are left with wanting more, and if you have experienced one of these in the past, you'll certainly get flashbacks due to the ride's layout and action set pieces that occur. A Wild West shooting gallery game has you holding 2 revolvers. Cardboard cutouts appear and it's your job to shoot as many as possible, which isn't that hard at all. The main challenge comes from knowing when to reload, which is done automatically after you have used up a clip. The game overall lacks any real depth, which makes replays a bit boring. The only real obstacle you come face to face with is the game's owner herself. She sits right on the stand itself, and her position does get in the way of your aiming. Why the developers placed her here, I have no idea. One of the more active games now is one where you must climb to the top of a lighthouse. Certain parts of the wall can be grabbed onto, and others can't. It's very obvious what parts can be gripped onto though, so if you miss a ledge and fall, it really is your own fault. It's just a shame that the game doesn't allow for you to fall down that far before returning you to a checkpoint. It does remove the potential of some heart-dropping moments to be had, but you do still get some butterflies when you look down. The lighthouse is very tall and provides a great view of the park below. Once again, there are some visually amazing moments to be seen here. A ball throwing game now, and forgive me for not remembering its proper name. You have a few balls to chuck, and if they land in a hole, you will get that hole's points. It's very simple, and is one of the more classic games here. Unfortunately, I did experience a crash during my time here, which resulted in the game quitting. This was the only bug I encountered in the whole game though, and I wonder if it was because I chucked one of the balls outside the tent by accident. Another more fast-paced game now, where you must hit squirrels that pop out of holes. Like the whack-a-mole game, what you see is what you get, but this time you are on a time limit. The board they pop out of is quite large, so if you're aiming for the best score possible, you will want to be standing when playing this game. A carousel can also be ridden, but has a strange twist as you are given a magic wand and can shoot tornadoes that appear around the ride. Casting the spells is quite precise, but you're not rewarded for having good aiming. The only thing that is tracked is how long you have spent on the ride, which makes it quite boring after only a minute or so. A Baton Ball game now, where you must destroy shapes at the end of a hall. You do this by bouncing the ball back and forth. If it collides with a wall, it will pick up speed again, so it is a bit challenging. But this mechanic also prevents the ball from slowly floating around for too long. Power-ups also make an appearance, such as multi-balls, and one can even turn your bats briefly into automatically shooting guns. It's one of the more in-depth games, thanks to the inclusion of power-ups. One of the most thought out games now, which is basically a rip-off of Fruit Ninja VR. There are many rounds, and each new round gives you a new blade to mess around with, although the difference between them really is only visual. The slicing mechanics are excellent, and you can slice the same vegetable numerous times, which will reward you with a better score. If you slice junk that is thrown, your score will be decreased. But helping you to avoid it is the ability to slow down time. I was actually quite impressed with this game, as if you hit something with the side of your blade, it will bounce it away. It was incredibly realistic, and because of this, it actually immersed me in the game more so than others. A hot air balloon ride is also here. This isn't just an experience though, as you must throw confetti balls through hoops. Some of the time my aiming felt precise, whilst others it didn't, so it was a bit annoying. Just like the roller coaster, this ride takes you around the park itself, and the views once again are very nice. You will get the most out of this game if you play while stood. A strange target range can also be found. You must bat balls towards targets with a lollipop tennis racket. The collision and direction is pretty good, but this is another game where you will benefit greatly from standing. Sitting does make it more difficult. It's doable, but it will likely take you longer to complete. I was quite impressed with the location these target arenas are set in. It certainly gives off a Willy Wonka vibe, and there are physics-based objects that you can whack around for a bit of mindless fun. Objects are also placed around the park that encourage a bit of this mindless fun. Balls can be bounced and balloons can be deflated after touching them, which makes for a comical viewing, or you could actually carry a balloon around with you, and the string does have physics attached. You can also eat some items, but unlike the balls that can be bounced, I doubt many will get much enjoyment from these edibles. Some objects do encourage a bit of exploration in the park itself, as hidden toys serve as the game's collectibles. They're not too hard to spot, and I wish there was a few more of them. Maybe if they was a bit smaller in size, it would have made the hunt a bit more challenging, but it's a fun little addition nonetheless. Some of the rides do have high scores attached. Beating them rewards you with stars. These high scores are not that hard to achieve at all, and shouldn't take too many tries. Getting all the stars in the game will unlock the gates of time. I personally haven't done this, but I know what is behind the door. And to be honest, it's not really a great reward. If you don't mind it being spoilt, I will leave it in the comments under this video. It took me just under 2 hours to see the park's attractions, but I'm pretty sure everything can be seen even quicker if you rush through it. The game is intended to be replayed over and over, but because most of the games lack any real depth, for me personally, it's only a one-time outing. And unfortunately, the trophy list doesn't really encourage a lot more time to be spent here. A lot of the trophies are rewarded for beating high scores, and some I did get on my first attempt. There are some extra challenges, such as climbing the lighthouse without falling, and then for catching one of the many toy balls that fall on you when you're on the roller coaster, but these are not that hard to get at all. You will also need to find all the teddies that are hidden around the park. I mean, it's a decent list for this game, but they're just too easy to get. I would have really liked more trophies that really tested our gaming skills. Now we come to the real question, is Summer Funland actually fun? Well, yeah. It is. I really did have a lot of fun visiting the park due to its layout, and I certainly felt like a kid who was spoilt for choice due to the sheer amount of rides here. But after I had seen everything once, that was it. Nothing really grabs your attention and encourages second playthroughs, which is a real shame. Everything works and it's a pretty solid experience overall, apart from that one crash I experienced. Overall, Summer Funland absolutely captures the magic of a real-world theme park when you first arrive, but unlike a real-world theme park when you leave, you don't feel like returning for the excitement again. Oh my... Ah! I caught on! If you want to see more gameplay of each of the park's rides, one of my recent live streams of the game is on screen right now. As always, if you found this review helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more PSVR content.